Okay. So yeah, when people think about metaverse, because first I want to talk about what metaverse is. You can watch millions of videos from Facebook envisioning virtual, a bit of holographic space where people work, play, spend time together, and more or less this is a correct way. Of course, most of the time right now it looks like this, and it sometimes seems like this is not the future. If you look at this, like, this is worse than we've games we had for 10 years now. But then you have to take a step back and see that this is how internet looked like, I think, 15 years ago. And right now, we even looking at our own webpage where you have
25.
25.
25. I
Okay,
remember this.
but there were 15 years ago, there are still pages that look like this. But anyway, and right now it looks completely different, even though it might not look that promising those 20 years ago. And the thing is that humans are very, very good of making things that are seemingly impossible possible in a very, very short time. So when thinking about the metaverse, don't get discouraged by how it looks right now, how it's not working right now, how it seems impossible to do, because we believe, and belief is a very, very important word in it, because there is nothing certain when you are talking about the future. But we believe that this is where the technology will go, and it can go there very, very fast. So you can see 30 years of mobile phones evolving into smartphones. This is a very, very short time. Between 1992 and 1960s, where we shoot the first person to the moon, was only 30 years, and the technology evolved so much. So in 30 years, we also managed to have smartphones, mini, very advanced computers just in our pockets. So when you think about the metaverse, you can think about it as the next step of the internet. So it will evolve from what internet is right now, and it will add on top on it. So internet killed the distance. You don't need to sit in the same room. You don't need to have an office to work together with other people. You don't need to be in the same place to work together or play together or be together, spend time together, anything. And metaverse will kill the barrier of physicality, because even though we are working together right now, it's still based on 2D and audio. So it's text, it's always on the screen. And the vision for the metaverse is that it will feel more physical. You'll be feeling like you are there with other people. And it might look like this. Of course, this is a Fortnite concert, but you can imagine that you'll be having lifelike, maybe steered by your brain avatars, and you'll be able to be in space with other people. And when we go to the some most formal definition, and I think this one is very important because it tackles some things that people like to call metaverse, that it is in the metaverse. So metaverse is an massively scaled and interoperable network. Network is very important here, of real-time rendered 3D virtual worlds. This is easy to understand. 3D virtual worlds, games have done it for years, which can be experienced synchronously and persistently. So it's not like it resets every hour or it resets every game. It's synchronously and persistently by effectively unlimited number of users. So you can have millions and millions of people at the same time, and it works with an individual sense of present, continuity of data like identity, history, objects, communication, and payments. So when I like to compare metaverse to something, anything, I like to compare it to the internet. So metaverse as a whole is like the internet, the network that allows you to be with other people in 3D. And it's universal, it spans around all meta platforms. And meta platforms for me are comparable to platforms or social media or even WordPress. So platforms that give you an ability to create your own, in our case, profile content space. And in case of Metaverse, it will allow you to create your own meta spaces or your own meta words. So right now, the easiest way to compare it is creating a map in CSGO or in Fortnite or in Roblox. And on the internet, it's also your profile on Instagram. You are the owner of your space and you make it to fit yourself. So this is why I always say that the metaverse doesn't exist. We have spaces, words, even platforms that allow you to build words, but we don't have the network that's connecting all of them and making it easy to jump from one to the next with the same sense of self. So it's not like creating a new profile on the platform. And this is very misleading because with internet, we were used to first having the network and then building platforms for it. And then having those platforms allow you to build something. And with the metaverse, it's the other way around. So we have platforms that will evolve into probably more metaversal platforms, but we don't have the network that connects them all yet. And also in the big vision, this is my personal opinion, I believe that the real metaverse is when we'll be able to access it in VR, maybe steered by our hands and by our eyes, words, or even brain. And it will not be accessed with just mouse and a screen and a keyboard, because it's not a big difference from what we are doing right now. But let's leave it for later. So in short, metaverse, it's not NFTs or blockchain. These are technologies that can be used to solve some problems or challenges that metaverse face, especially around identity and payments. It's not Web 3.0. This is a separate idea of how can internet evolve, and it's about decentralization of ownership and like not having huge platforms, corporations governing the internet, but having people contribute to it. And probably metaverse and web3 will be intertwining, but one and the other are separate ideas. It's not gaming, and I covered why it's not gaming previously when I was talking about metaverse. But I can also send you slides more about why it's not gaming. And it's not a single platform. So Facebook, Horizon, or Decentraland are not the metaverse. They are meta platforms. And hopefully none of those will become just the only one standard, so the metaverse. So the metaverse is not here yet, doesn't exist yet, but the seeds for it are already here. So MMORPGs, live streaming, social media, games, VR, AR, smartphones are all the things that will help evolve into metaverse. And the most important thing that's already here are the societal changes. So for most of Gen Z, and you can see some research about it, that like around 30-40% of Gen Z are like, meh, when they hear about the metaverse. This is mostly because people get excited about being able to control an avatar in a digital space, and young people and us here are like, yeah, we've been doing that for years in games. But what's important is that what is new for a lot of people, it's normality for the younger generations. And these are the societal changes that will allow us to even think about metaverse happening. So the first thing are digital relationships. We are all right to have a friend that we have never met in real life. And it can be done with through social media or games, doesn't matter. Digital relationships are real. Of course, the same way, it's real to have a digital life and digital sense of self. So you can have your own profile or your own even VTuber be another personality of yours, and you can curate your feed, and your online present and your online digital sense of self might be different than this one in real world. And we are completely all right with that. And of course, we are completely all right that there are spaces, 3D virtual spaces, when you meet other people and you do stuff together. You can play, you can fish, you can chat. These are MMORPGs or other games when you just spend time with other people in digital space. This is all normal for us, and these are the fundamentals on which Metaverse will be built on. So when we are talking about the layers of the Metaverse, I'd say that there are three most important layers. Of course, as you can see, there's nothing about the platforms or meta words. But the base layer, and the one that I think is right now the most undeveloped, and the one that we rely a bit on, is the technology. So the networking, the cloud computing, rendering, engines, VR hardware, latency. You can think about it from the point of view that right now, if you're playing a game and you have a ping over 100 milliseconds, it's unplayable. So it means that you have servers that are close to your place, and it helps you have better ping in a game. But if Metaverse is about having all the people being in the same place simultaneously, it would mean that you are in the same virtual space with somebody from Taiwan or from Japan. And if they have a 100 millisecond ping to you when you are talking or making facial expressions, you will notice it. And this is why networking and working latency is important. And of course, 5G, all those things. So there's a lot around even the basic technology that has to be done to have the full vision emerge. Of course, there are other things like VR hardware or brain computer interfaces that are getting, I think, better and better every day, faster than we would expect. And of course, AI that probably will help run all of it. Then there are creators. So internet does not exist without creators. We wouldn't have so much fun in the internet if there were no bloggers, people who write in social media, people who create videos, people who stream. And in a sense, internet only exists because of those millions of independent and then more dependent because big corporations, people who create things on it. And it will be the same in the metaverse. So if we want people to populate the metaverse, they have to have something to populate. And we'll be focusing on the creators layer in our future. And there's the fluff. I call it the fluff not because it's not important. I call it because there is a lot of talk around the metaverse, around monetization, around blockchain, around ownership, around making it look good or making digital fashion. These are all important things, but they will not exist if the technology doesn't exist that allows to make the metaverse, if the creators and the platforms doesn't exist. And then this is where the fluff happens. So I think a lot of problems with media talk around metaverse, it is because it focuses on the top layer, omitting those bottom two. And we'll be focusing on the middle. So inStreamly, our big vision, and by big vision, I mean the vision that we have for the company in 5 or 10 years, is connecting metaverse creators with brands. By creators, I mean that, as I said, the future of metaverse relies on those millions of independent creators. And the first group of creators will be people who create meta words or metaverses, metaspaces creators. So right now, those people will create games, spaces, lands, universes, and maps in games like Roblox or GTA 5 servers, or even places in VR chat. And in the future, we will have more open platforms that will allow you to create your own spaces and also have an ownership of it. So be able to monetize it more, have more control over it. Then we have content and community creators. So these are the people who we commonly right now call creators. These people create discords, groups, they are streamers, they create video. There's always almost 50 million people worldwide who call themselves a creator. And in the future, I can imagine that, of course, they will be creating content around the metaverse. But what's more important, that the metaverse will have a space for every niche and community. So instead of having a Discord channel for your fans, you'll have your own world. And what's important, those creators and communities will have the influence over which words get popular or not. The same way, right, like streamer right now can say, hey, let's go play this game. This game is fun. And it makes the game popular. You can imagine that if they all meet in a meta world and the creator says, hey, I saw this word is cool. I am opening a portal right now. Let's jump into this word and see what's there and play together or do stuff together in there. And they will have the influence over what's popular and what's really populated in the metaverse. And of course, you cannot have a room without the walls. You cannot have my avatar without my eyes, nose, and mouth. And those assets will also need to be created. Right now, when you talk about assets, you think about maybe assets for game dev, maybe some fashion assets. But in the future, if every major platform will allow everyone to create a space that will open the possibilities of independent asset creation, selling those assets, and also making them more suited to the niche, because you can, make furry assets or shroom core assets, and they are not as popular right now because there is less need for it. So what we want to build as inStreamly, and notice that this is a very vague description of it because we are still exploring what can it mean. We want to create a media mix and creators X marketing X automation solution that will allow brands to go to us and say, hey, I have this budget, I want to reach this kind of people. And we will match it to different ways of doing that within the metaverse, all relying on creators. And of course, then the payment, this model, you work with it every day. So right now, you can say that inStreamly is about live streaming. And this, in the present moment, doesn't change in the way most of us work. In the future, it will be about the metaverse plus live streaming as maybe a part of it, because you can imagine that video, text, live streams are not going away if the vision of metaverse will be really the future. It will evolve, but it will still be there. So if you want a very pragmatic way of what does it mean for the company, I'd say that right now, inStreamly live streaming expansion is priority. If we don't get revenue, if we don't get enough brands, if we don't get enough streamers, and we will not be growing as a company, these all dreams of the future years will be gone. And right now we are exploring the metaverse proof of concepts, future products. What can we do? What can be scalable? What can work? We are exploring it with also with clients. This is the role of Kaha. So she is exploring all those things, helping us make a very clear strategy, have hypotheses to test, and to find the product we'll be developing in the future. In 1 to 3 years, we'll be putting more and more development focus on metaverse products and POCs, and getting meaningful traction with it. It doesn't mean that we'll stop working on inStreamly. inStreamly will still be there. We'll not be throwing away a goose that gives golden eggs. But we'll be also putting a lot more effort to develop this metaverse concept that will help us grow with the future. And in 4 to 7 years, up to 80% of company revenue should come from metaverse solution, and not because we will be scaling down our revenue from other sources, more because we believe that the revenue from the metaverse solutions will be as big. And of course, the live streaming branch is still active and operating. So if you are thinking about what it means right now for your everyday work, for most of you, it will not change how you work. For marketing, it might mean that we'll be talking more and positioning us more into the metaverse because we want to attract clients who want to test different solutions with us. For sales team, it might mean selling inStreamly as a tool, but if somebody talks about the metaverse, say, hey, we are exploring this as well. We have some ideas. We can do things for you. And we don't expect you to jump into the metaverse right now because we are not there yet, but we want you to really, really understand why we are going into this vision and what it will mean for the company in the upcoming years.